Morning, colleagues. Good to see you all. Good to see familiar faces around us. It's been a while since we interacted like this. I believe the last briefing was on January, 31st January. So it's been a while. We hope that we can keep these more regular as we proceed now with the implementation of the revised electoral calendar. So allow me to quickly start with a brief in terms of what we have for you. Unfortunately, my mic has no stand, so I have to hold it. Are we ready? Great. Thank you again, media persons, staff of the Electoral Commission of Zambia, stakeholders and citizens of the Republic of Zambia who are following us on different platforms, live TV, Facebook, YouTube, and whichever channel that it is that you're joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Commission, I warmly welcome you all to this media briefing and to the Electoral Commission of Zambia. We have invited you this morning to provide you with an update on a number of processes that the Electoral Commission of Zambia is undertaking in preparation of the 2021 general elections. Firstly, I wish to mention that in order to meet the deadlines ahead of the 2021 general elections, in view of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Commission has had to revise its election timetable, taking into consideration that the election date is enshrined in the Constitution. The Commission carried out a critical analysis of the activities and the time frame ahead of the 12th August 2021, when Zambia is scheduled to hold its general elections. And I think this is important for colleagues in the media to take note. We have seen a number of articles as well as media reports with regards to the Commission attempting to defer general elections. That is totally not possible, because this is a constitutional matter. It is enshrined in the Constitution, and the elections, the general elections, will be held on 12th August 2021. And I would encourage citizens as well as our media colleagues to basically have a look at the Constitution and a number of other electoral laws as we do our analysis. I'm on TV, your mic is falling. Allow me to also mention and remind ourselves here that the Commission has a constitutional mandate under Article 229, this is true, of the Constitution of Zambia, Amendment Act number 2 of 2016, to carry out the following functions. 1, to implement the electoral process, conduct elections and referenda, register voters, settle minor electoral disputes as prescribed, regulate the conduct of voters and candidates, accredit observers and election agents as prescribed, delimit electoral boundaries, and perform such other functions as prescribed. So while COVID-19 has imposed a challenge, not only for elections, but almost every sector of life, within and across the nation, the Commission would like to ensure that every undertaking is in line with the law, aimed at enhancing the electoral process and delivery of credible elections that meet the aspirations of the Zambian people. In this regard, it was important for the Commission to appreciate the COVID-19 environment, including cross-learning from other electoral management bodies within the region and other jurisdictions on possible best practices and how to effectively conduct elections without compromising any of the tenets of the free, fair, and credible elections, but also ensuring that we safeguard the lives of our people. And it was important that we retreat as a Commission in terms of our earlier scheduled calendar So as a commission, we are still learning of how to better conduct elections in the new normal environment and remain open to all interested stakeholders to engage with the Commission on issues that may concern them, including clarifications where need be, in a bid to be inclusive and to ensure that we enhance our electoral processes. May I also take this opportunity to mention that as part of implementation of the electoral calendar, the Commission will enhance its engagement with stakeholders, as is the case now with the media colleagues here, and has lined up the Political Party Liaison Committee next week. This is a committee that is comprised of political parties, mainly Secretary Generals and chairpersons of elections. And this is scheduled for next week, 16th June, Tuesday, where we'll engage on a number of aspects, including what will be briefed to you today. In addition to this, we'll also have a civil society briefing on Friday, 19th June 2020. So invitations have already started going out, and I'll take this opportunity for those that are interested to communicate with our Public Relations Office for them to participate in this important event. With that said, allow me to provide some key updates, some of which I build up from the last briefing that we had. I'll start with the delimitation exercise. Colleagues, as you recall, the Commission commenced the delimitation exercise in all districts across the country from July 2019 to December 2019. Following a review of the submissions and recommendations from the stakeholder, the Commission compiled a report with the recommendations on the number of constituencies, wards, as well as changes to polling districts, including relocations, change of names. Those have been submitted for gazetting on our end. The Commission awaits feedback on the next steps from the Executive. This is especially in reference to constituencies. So on the part of the Commission, the delimitation exercise has been fully concluded and has been submitted to the Executive, and we believe that this might be submitted to Parliament in the current sitting. Printing of ballot papers. In preparation for 2021 general election, as you recall, the Commission advertised the tender in September 2019 in line with the Zambia Public Procurement Act number 12 of 2008, section 26, and part 11 of the Public Procurement Regulations, SI number 63 of 2011, which requires that procurements of high value be conducted through open bidding. I wish to inform you that the tender process has since been concluded. The two appeals that were before the Zambia Public Procurement Authority were reviewed, and the Commission's evaluation of the best bidder was upheld. In this regard, the tender for the printing of ballot papers for the 2021 general election has been awarded to Al Ghurair of Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Voter registration. I think we are all looking forward to this exercise. There's been a lot of narratives around the voter registration exercise. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commission plans to undertake the registration of voters in May 2020 for 60 days. But due to COVID-19 pandemic, the Commission has had to adjust the activities in the election timetable. Therefore, the commencement of voter registration exercise has been rescheduled to October 2020, and it will be undertaken for 30 days nationwide in all constituencies and wards. This will be an aggressive process, and we encourage citizens to be on the lookout. The expected date of commencement We think this should be around the 18th of October, when all other processes would have been concluded, including the mobile voter registration exercise with our colleagues under the Ministry of Home Affairs. The period of voter registration has been reduced to 30 days from 60 due to tight timelines leading to the election day, which is enshrined in the Constitution. Like I said, the election date is enshrined in the Constitution. This cannot be varied unless there is an amendment to the Constitution or the country is in a state of emergency, of which case none of those has happened. As it stands, the election date is 12 August 2021. So for us to be able to meet that timeline, the undertaking for voter registration will be for 30 days. The Commission has further reviewed stakeholder concerns and recommendations about its intention to embark on a new register of voters, which targets 9 million voters. The Commission undertook a thorough analysis of the situation and different scenarios of preparing the register of voters for the 2021 general election. Arising from this analysis, the Commission has concluded that it will be in the best interest of all the stakeholders and the general public for the Commission to undertake a fresh registration of voters whilst ensuring that the current registered voters are still retained on the provision that they present themselves for verification, update, and capture of additional information required, including biometric capture. This is 10 fingerprints and a portrait. Allow me to repeat this, because it's very, very important so that people are not differentiated during this exercise. Arising from the analysis, the Commission has concluded that it will be in the best interest of all stakeholders and the general public for the Commission to undertake a fresh registration of the voters, whilst ensuring that the current registered voters, and I'm speaking to the current registered voters, whilst ensuring that the current registered voters are still retained on the provision that they present themselves for verification, updates, and capture of additional information required, including biometric capture. This is 10 fingerprints on both your left and right hand, and a portrait. Some of the factors considered included the post-2016 reviews and recommendations from both local and international observer missions, audit of the 2016 Register of Voters, whose recommendations included a new Register of Voters for 2021 general elections, the removal of deceased voters that may not have been declared to the Commission or traced through the available system for removing them, implementation of the 2019 delimitation recommendations for new electoral boundaries, starting with the constituencies, wards, and polling districts, including relocation and renaming of polling stations. Improved biometric processing. This will include removal of duplicate records, accurate and faster identification. So nobody can forge your biometrics. The moment you come through, the system will be able to pick you instantly and will remove any suspicions that may be there with regards to having either non-Zambians or people that are not supposed to be on the register being on the register. Accurate election planning and logistics. I think this is equally important for us to be able to ensure that we provide effective electoral services to the citizens. We need to have accurate data, and this will help us in doing just that. Realistic voter turnout statistics. Because of the nature of the register currently, which is as old as 2005 and has been updated, you find that we still retain some of the people that are deceased on the register, And even when we are talking about voter turnout, it's not necessarily a true reflection, as that also takes into account deceased persons. Capture an additional estimated 4 million new eligible voters since 2016. This is especially those that have fallen into the voting bracket. Further to that, enhance the register integrity and increase stakeholder confidence and credibility of the process and the outcome of the 2021 general election. The voter registration exercise will include mobile as well as online voter registration. We are quite excited about the online venture. This will allow citizens to quickly go online, and it will commence at the same time with the mobile as well as the physical when you have to get to different registration centers. And the launch will be communicated to you. In this regard, every eligible voter will have to register / verify their details under the new register for the 2021 general elections. As was earlier communicated, any by-election that occurs from the time the new registration process commences to a period before the 2021 general elections will be conducted under the current register of voters. So the new register will only take effect for the 2021 general elections. Talking of the 2021 general elections, allow me to also give you some updates with regards to the preparedness and also share with you some of the aspects of the electoral process that the Commission is undertaking in preparation for the 2021 general elections. Key to that includes procurements, so we need to ensure that everything is in place. Procurements of voter registration and election materials have reached an advanced stage. I'm sure most of you have been seeing a number of tenders. The Commission wants to ensure that both security and non-security materials are delivered on time to avert late/delayed delivery of materials to polling stations. Most procurements are currently at contract stage and clearance from the Attorney General and Accountant General's office. So all major procurements on the part of the Commission have been concluded. What is remaining is basically a few administrative procurements that are not a challenge or would pose a hindrance to the conduct of the elections in 2021. However, let me also mention that the biggest risk the Commission faces is financing, which has been adversely impacted as a result of reduced economic activities due to COVID-19 and reduced revenue generation capacity by the Treasury. The Commission has continued to engage with the Treasury for funding for the voter registration and the 2021 general elections to ensure that we meet our set timelines, and we are optimistic that this will still be attained. But it's very, very important that we appreciate this challenge. And should this not be actualized, we will be quick to communicate to the general public as well as the stakeholders. But we remain optimistic that this will be attained, and we have commitment from our colleagues from the Treasury. In terms of result management, this is also another issue that is very topical during elections. The Commission remains resolute towards shortening the time within which election results are announced and declared. And as a reminder from our previous briefing, I will share with you some of the steps undertaken. And I must mention that in terms of the set timelines for announcing, Zambia actually is the best in the region. However, we also want to make sure that we shorten the time that is, we do avail the results. And some of those undertakings include converting streams into polling stations, and this was communicated earlier. This will avoid the aggregation of election results at stream level, and once each stream is treated as a polling station, the Commission will announce the results for various types of elections without having to aggregate all the streams into the polling station and then announce the results. So the moment you go to vote, ideally you'd have the streams. If you're going to a school, you have so many streams at the particular polling station. Now, each of those streams will be treated as a polling station. The moment that stream concludes, they'll compile the results and be able to finalize and send them to the tallying centers. So that will quicken the process and will not depend on other streams to be able to conclude. Delimitation. The delimitation exercise did look at a number of parameters that also look at enhancing the provision of electoral services, such as the creation of new wards and polling stations to decongest the existing ones. And this will allow for swift processing, counting, but also the time that it takes one to be able to cast their vote. Like we had earlier indicated, we will be deploying satellite devices in areas where there is no GSM. This is the mobile phones that we use to enhance the transmission of the results. Also streamlining the process of results verification at the election centers to enhance efficiency. So a process has been set up, and this will be shared with the relevant stakeholders, especially political parties, to be able to appreciate how that process will be done. Enhanced voter statistics. We know that this is also another issue that is very topical, and we get a lot of allegations, and even to date, you find a lot of narrations around this. One of those including one of the results from Eastern Province. So the issue of enhanced voter statistics, you'll be able to see the provision of disaggregated voter turnout statistics at polling stations to enhance reporting of election results and addressing stakeholder requests. So this information will be provided at each polling station. You know exactly what are the number of registered voters at the polling station. You know what has been cast, what the turnout has been. That to be provided right there at the polling station. So we will not have any issues with regards to mismatches in numbers, what will be presented, and so on. Prisoners voting. Following the case of Godfrey Malembeka, which we are now quite familiar with, Prisons Care and Counseling Association, this is PRISCA in short, versus the Attorney General and Electoral Commission of Zambia, in which the court held that prisoners' right to vote should be upheld, which entailed that the commission, in fulfilling the ruling, was required to undertake prisoners' voting for the 2021 general elections. So the commission will proceed with this, and we are aggressively working towards attaining this. The commission has made steady progress towards finalization of the guidelines to facilitate for prison voting, and is expected to conclude this by September 2020 in time for the voter registration exercise. So the prisoners, those in incarceration, those with limited movement, will be part of the voter registration exercise that will be undertaken in October. The next steps for prisoner voting will involve consultation with key stakeholders, especially the political parties and non-state actors. However, I should mention that this exercise has been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, as some of the activities could not be undertaken as planned, and we had to resort to innovative measures such as virtual learning and virtual meetings with sister electoral management bodies, where we intended to do benchmarking. Code of Conduct Enforcement Regulations. This is another topical issue, especially when it comes to electoral violence and breach of the code. The Commission has made progress in reviewing the Code of Conduct Enforcement Regulations to allow us to be able to respond swiftly to acts in breach of the Electoral Code of Conduct. In this regard, the Commission now, as it stands, will be able to determine urgent cases that come before it without the cases being brought before the Conflict Management Committee. May I repeat that? In this regard, the Commission, with the revision of the Electoral Code of Conduct, will now determine urgent cases that come before it without the cases being brought before the Conflict Management Committee. The revised Code of Conduct enforcement regulations will come into effect after being gazetted, and this process is being done as we speak right now. We therefore call on political parties to strictly adhere to the provisions of the Electoral Code of Conduct to avoid disqualification and enhance the credibility of the elections and the country's democratic practices. As I conclude, allow me to also give you a brief. Ladies and gentlemen, as you may be aware, the Commission recently conducted 3 local government by-elections, 2 in Mongu and 1 in Chilubi, which were held on the 9th of June 2020. I'm pleased to inform you that the nominations and polls were successfully held in the local government by-elections in the Nakato and Imali wards of Mongu Town Council in Western Province and the Wulilo ward of Chilubi Town Council in Northern Province. We wish to commend all the political parties that participated in the just-ended local government by-elections for the peaceful campaigns, and we hope that this will be the trend moving forward. The parties that participated were the Movement for Change and Equity, National Restoration Party, NAREP, Patriotic Front, and the United Party for National Development. In addition to this, we have 11 local government by-elections scheduled for July 2020. We anticipate that this number may go up, but this is what we currently have on the schedule of elections for July 2020. In conclusion, I wish to thank the media for the role you're playing in our electoral process and encourage you to continue providing information to the electorate and engage with the Commission. Our PR department remains open and will be on hand to provide any information that you may require. With these words, I thank you and God bless you. We now open it up to plenary.
Thank you very much. That was a brief from the Chief Electoral Officer, Mr. Shindano. We now open the floor for questions. You will need to introduce yourself so that we know who we are talking to. We'll take the first question here. Do you have another question? Nine? Let's speak up.
Good morning. My name is Nicole from TV. You mentioned that you have a challenge with finances to conduct the registration exercise. How much is required? How much do you currently have? And how much is the deficit?
You can take another question. Do we have another question on the floor?
My name is Rita Nami from Multimedia House. I wanted to find out from ECZ on the issue of the fees for presidential nomination fees. Do you have any plans of adjusting them upwards or downwards? Because stakeholders have complained on the high fees, and this is causing most people not to participate fully in these elections. And my second question also is on is it the body that consists of eminent people? Who are these people, and
The folder. We go with those three? Adanian?
My name is Jason from IT. I just wanted to get your comment on the enhancement of IT following the exercise of electoral manipulation. I just wanted to find out how secure are the computers and everything following the exercise of manipulation of numbers of elections.
Following with?
The manipulation of results, like how secure are the computers? And enhancing, I find the way enhancing the IT.
Okay. Thank you so much for those questions. The first one had to do with what the budget to do with voter registration exercise. How much do we require? How much do we currently have secured? I did provide in the last briefing in terms of how much we did require then. The amount we needed, that was budgeted for, and this was the initial budget, was 842 million kwacha. What has been provided for, as contained in the Yellow Book, this is the Appropriation Act, is 100 million kwacha. The Commission is alive to the challenges the country is facing, and the Commission had to retreat, which included, like we had indicated, the revision of the electoral calendar. Following the revision of the electoral calendar, we also had to rationalize to ensure that we are also supportive of the measures that government is putting in place, and the budget had to be brought down. We needed to look at where and how we can do things better, but still meet the objective that we had set, but also meet the objective that is required to ensure that fair and credible elections are conducted. And the budget was revised downwards to 674 million kwacha. So as it stands, that is the current budget that is required to undertake a successful voter registration exercise. What is committed is 100 million kwacha. And we hope that the balance will be met on the part of the Treasury. Thank you. With regards to nomination fees, this is something that will be discussed at the Political Party Liaison Committee, and I'm sure after that we'll be able to give you feedback in terms of the revisions that will come out, whether downwards, upwards, or constant. But like anything else, it's inevitable that these are revised. Eminent persons. The Commission has appointed a group of eminent persons. This is an advisor, an observatory, an advisory body. So what will be happening is that they will be participating in a number of engagements that the Commission will be undertaking. One of those structures of engagement includes the Political Party Liaison Committee. So they will be presented at the next Political Party Liaison Committee that will be held on the 16th, which is next week, Tuesday. And the idea is that to ensure that we have an independent observer to be able to tackle the issue of misinformation, mismatch in information that comes out, but also to get independent opinion that will be brought to the Commission based on the observation that will be made by the eminent group of persons. So based on the interactions that we'll be having as a Commission, the persons will be invited in, like I indicated, the case of Political Party Liaison Committee, and after that, they'll be able to also come up with an opinion, which they'll forward to the Commission, but they'll also, in certain instances, be able to engage with different stakeholders, especially political party leaders, on a number of pertinent issues where an independent person is required. So the group of eminent persons comprises of the following: General Benjamin Mivenge, retired, and these are quite prominent. You'll be able to, I'm sure, Google them, and you know that these are eminent and they're supposed to be impartial, non-politically inclined. Professor Enala Mwase, currently with the University of Zambia. Professor Owen Sichone, that from the Copperbelt University. It's the Dagamas Road Institute of Peace and Conflict. Professor Edwin Zulu,